Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam, Trailokyam Sacharacharam, Atpadam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva, Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva, Tvameva Vedyad Ravinam Tvameva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Bhadram Karne Vishnuyama Devaha, Bhadram Bhashye Makshabhirya Jatraha, Sthiraya Rangai Stushtuvagun Sastanubihi, Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu, Swasti na Indro Vridhashravaha, Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha, Swasti nastarksho arishtanemihi, Swasti no brahaspatir dadhatu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So we finished up with the first section last week. And just a quick review of the ideas. They are all summed up in those last verses where he talked about how the universe proceeds from the self, the way the silk of the spider comes from the spider, the way hair grows out of the head, the way sprouts come out of the earth, from the hidden or the unmanifest comes the manifest. So this world is what we call Saguna Brahman, Brahman with qualities. Beyond that is Nirguna Brahman, Brahman without qualities. This is not just philosophy. This is a poetic way to describe what the yogi sees when the mind returns from samadhi. In samadhi, when all the last attachments and identifications have been given up, the mind thunders to a stop. All that's left is the prakash, the light of pure awareness. There is no more any vimarsha, deliberation, no vikalpa, no thoughts moving by, no vrittis. But when the mind returns from samadhi, now mind you, you're wide awake, alert. out of the self, you literally watch creation take place. Now, we want to end this discussion with a very important point. What is Maya? Who can tell me what Maya is?
Failing.
Okay. One way of looking at it. Anybody else?
It's literally described as time, space, and causation.
Where is it located? Is it in the mind?
It's everywhere.
The locus of Maya is Brahman. It's frequently thought of as universal ignorance. So is it in my mind? No. My mind is the result of Maya. Maya is the inscrutable power of the infinite, whereby the impossible seems to be possible. How is it that consciousness, which is, as Gita says, kutastha, absolutely still and immovable like a mountain, has within it the entire cosmos, appear to exist? Does Brahman undergo a change? No. Is there now Brahman plus the world? No. We have so many metaphors. We had the three that were in the scripture last week. The two that I'm fond of is like the pratibimba in the bimba. Bimba means mirror. Pratibimba is reflection. So if you go into the bathroom and look into the mirror, you will see your face. Is your face in the mirror?
No.
And you grab it and pull it out. Susali is an attractive young woman. She goes into the bathroom. Does her face stay there in the mirror? So when I go in, I need to move you out of the way so I can see my face. No. Does the mirror undergo a change to have Susali's face versus my face? No. Is the reflection really there? Well, it is and it isn't. It's not a real thing. Seen, but not real. Sarvam idam swapne veti. All this world is, as it were, like a dream. That's the thunderous declaration of the Upanishads. So what is the point of it all? First of all, you, the self, never undergo any change. This ego sense, this jiva, this ahankara, this chidabhasa, this reflection of consciousness, this chaya, this shadow of consciousness, is an imaginary, illusory event. And in this phenomenal world, if we go to Gita, second chapter, 16th verse, Krishna plays with these words Sat and Bhava. Bhava means being. Sat means existence. So we talk about things that exist and don't exist. The table exists, the chair exists, the lamp exists, Santosh exists. The child of a barren woman doesn't exist. Castle in the cloud doesn't exist. Horns of a hare don't exist. They're imaginary. Set that discussion on the shelf for now. Bhava, being. We talk about things and beings. The table is a thing. The chair is a thing. Santosh is a being. Susili is a being. Christian is a being. A dog is a being. What that verse says is, if it really exists, it has being. Only being really exists. There are no insentient things that are real. Imagine. So as we look out into the world with the apparent change, violence, death, and destruction, all that is mithya, illusion. What's really there? Bhava, being. It's all okay. Nothing that's real ever undergoes a change. So if the self in you is inviolate, unchanging, understand, self and everybody else is too. If the self in you is Krishna, is God consciousness itself, so is the self of all the people we don't like, that we don't agree with. This allows us to turn down our habituated reactivity to the world of name and form. And because it's all ultimately proceeded from God, Swamiji used to say it's a cosmos, not a chaos. It's all going to work out. Take it easy. Don't sweat the small stuff. It's all small stuff. Yeah, but what about actually, it's all working out. Okay. Haven't you been reading the headlines? Fascinating time. But it's all going to be okay. Now, as we start this second section, our Rishi will go into the value of religious ritual. Understand, he's going to do this ultimately for the purpose of saying, And this is not any kind of eternal value.
Can you say that once more?
That knowledge of this world, the purpose of ritual, in the end is not anything enduring. Mind you, he's not saying don't do it. He's saying don't have an unrealistic expectation of it. So, what is ritual? Ritual here, of course, this is Vedic ritual. This is the yajna, the great Vedic sacrifice, Agnihotra. We can look at it also with the all other ancillary rituals, the pujas. Puja means a ritual to propitiate a god. And we have to understand who the devas are. Now, the closest thing we have in Western thought, Cecily will be able to relate to this. So, in the cult of saints, you have a saint for every part of human life. So, if you lose something, who do you pray to? St. Anthony. St. Anthony, please come round. I've lost my watch. I know it can be found. You never learned that as a kid? No?
Not that one.
Of course, I don't know what they do in Spanish. They probably have different ones, but things like that, or, you know.
So that's if you pray for to get a boyfriend.
St. Anthony's, you get a boyfriend?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. See, like different use of the god. He's in charge of two departments, I guess, depending on what language you speak. Or you might need to pray to St. Jude. What's Jude in charge of? Lost causes. Or we have St. Cecilia, who's the patron saint of music.
Who's the same for the blind?
She might be for that too, I don't know. But like St. Jude's Hospital, that's why they call it that, for people who are terminally ill or incurable diseases. So, the cult of the saints in the Western world is the closest we can come to the idea of the various devas in Hinduism. Hinduism only is polytheistic at its very surface level. Hinduism is not even monotheistic. What is monotheism?
There's only one God.
Hinduism is monistic. What's the difference between monotheism and monism? Monotheism says there's only one God. Monism says there's only God. Important difference. So the devas, who are the devas? They are the presiding principles governing any aspect of human endeavor. The closest we have to that in English is like a muse, which we get from the Greek. Someone's a composer or a poet, and they write poetry, and they say, oh, the muse was with me this morning. A lot of creativity came through. Have you ever heard that use of the word muse?
Mm-hmm.
So, but this is what a deva is. It's a presiding principle over a field of human endeavor. So what kind of work do you do?
IT.
IT. So you go to work and you have to do the IT puja to propitiate the IT god. Meaning you understand the presiding principles and you work, which is your sacrifice, in order to advance the knowledge of IT and hopefully get prasad, the benefit of the sacrifice, meaning your paycheck. What do you do, Susali?
Interpret.
You're an interpreter. So you propitiate the interpreter God. So you have to do the puja, the ritual, the yajna, learning the equivalents in two languages, being able to do fast translation from one language to another. You have to do simultaneous translation practically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really difficult job. You had to learn it. You had to practice it. This is the yajna, the sacrifice, the puja, the ritual to propitiate the interpreter God. What do you do, Kristen?
Consultant,
What do you consult?
Salesforce.
Salesforce consultant. So you have to know how to worship the Salesforce God in order to be able to go to clients and tell them what Salesforce can do.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to propitiate the Salesforce deity. Now, in ancient times, we called the deities by different names. This is Vedic, this is very old. So they were gods like Indra. Usually the idea of the mind, Vayu, the wind. So as well as the major aspects of human endeavor, Devas, are you okay, Cicely?
Yeah, my back was hurting, so I'm just gonna stand.
Okay. Devas can also mean the forces of nature. Sometimes they can also mean the sense organs. Depends on how they're contextually used in the scripture. So we don't want to say, oh, this is superstition. There's no God here or God there. That's superstition. It's mystic symbolism. That's how we're to understand it. Now, in ancient times, if you knew the name of a god and you knew the Vedic ritual, the idea was you could control the god. So, do you write code in your job?
At times.
At times. So, you had to learn how to write code. So, you can control the IT god by writing the code. You see, you learned how to control the translation God by learning equivalent words in different languages, etc. Same for you in your job. So when the pujari, the priest, does a ritual, the deeper mystic symbolism is that this is a way I can propitiate, get the God to bless me in some way. It's not saying, oh, IT God, make me able to use C++ or whatever it is. I've heard that's a program, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, help me know how Windows works. It doesn't work that way. So we have to understand what is the puja, the ritual, the yajna we must do in order to propitiate the principle, the presiding principle over human endeavor. Now, what we're going to see in this second chapter is going to talk about the value of Vedic ritual for propitiating the gods. We talked about the mystic symbolism. It is always temporary. So you're doing medical translation, right?
Right.
Okay. So when COVID came around, did you have to learn new medical terms in Spanish, or could you just use the ones you used 10 years ago?
No, I had to learn new.
You did what?
I had to learn new term.
Well, why not use the ones you used 10 years ago?
It didn't apply.
Temporary. So for you, Kirsten, do they update Salesforce as a program on a regular basis?
Yeah,
Do you have to learn the new stuff?
yeah,
Yeah. And if you don't, what happens?
they take away your certification.
Yeah. So all of the rituals that we do to propitiate the presiding principle, what do we get out of it? We get out of it what's called artha. Who knows what artha is in Sanskrit? Wealth, meaning you get a benefit. And it's always temporary. Now, on the deeply religious level, if you do religious ritual, you will accrue what we call punya, which is merit, and you will expiate what we call papa, sin or demerit. So you will go to some form of punya loka, a heavenly realm. Or if you're naughty, you'll go to papa loka, the lower worlds, Naraka, hell. Good news is they're temporary. When you exhaust the merits or the demerits, then you return to what we call Manushaloka, the human realm. Try again. So those people who think that life is about getting what I want, acquiring money, property, prestige, family, relationship, houses, cows in the ancient days. All they do is go from one experience of work, of struggle, of effort to another. Don't believe me. None of us are kids. Well, this didn't work out so well. Maybe I'll try this. We go from endeavor to an experience. We either get the fruits of our action or we don't. Who's ever worked really hard for something and you didn't get what you want? It's always maybe. Conditions have to be right. Our aptitude has to be right. And again, in Gita, Krishna says, I am the karma phala data. I am the giver of the fruits of action. I have a friend, really smart, has stumbled in his life, got caught up in addiction, lost his job, lost his partner, lost his house, lost his boat. And he was kind of the breadwinner in this partnership. And his ex just took on the job of taking care of this older fellow as he was dying of cancer. And when this older fellow died, he left a huge sum of money and a house in the Oakland Hills to this guy. Didn't have the education, didn't have the history of the big buck job. He was a simple fellow, and now he's done well. My friend, that's some jealousy. I worked so hard. What's to say? Karma, force of the past. So what this second chapter will end with is there something that's enduring that will permanently free me from the cycle of births and deaths, of struggling so hard to try to win in life? So in Buddhism, the Four Noble Truths, the truth of suffering, the truth of the arising of suffering, the truth of the cessation of suffering, and then the last one answers the question, is there a way to be permanently free from suffering? Marga Satya, the path, the truth of the path. Yoga says exactly the same thing. So, with that in mind, let's get into the mantras. Will you help us out, Santosh?
Yes. Tadetat satyam mantreshu karmani kavayo yanya pasyanstani tretayam bahuda santatani tanya charata niyatam satyakama eshava pantaha sukritasya loke. The various karmas which seers found in the mantras are true and were practiced in the Treta age.
So, there's
more.
Oh, okay.
Practice them always with the desire for the true results. This is your way for attaining the fruits of karma in the world.
So when we say karma here, we have karma usually just means action, but the older meaning of the word is ritual action. So in the third yuga, or four yugas, Kali Yuga, second yuga, third yuga, Sat Yuga. So in the third age, the Vedas were given to us with these various practices, rituals to be done to propitiate the devas so that you can get what you want in the world. That's the external meaning. To see the mystic symbolism. So, Susili, did you have to go through training to learn to do translation?
Yes.
Did you go to school? Did you take a course? What did you do?
I went to San Francisco State and they have a certification program there. And then I went to the Monterey Interpretation School.
Yeah.
And continue.
Yes. So this is your propitiation. This is your study to learn to do it. This is the way in which the certification process allows it. Now, if somebody just comes along and speaks two languages, says, gee, I think I'm going to set myself up as an official interpreter. Certified. Got to get the certification. Do you have a Salesforce certification?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, so that is put forward. This is how you get what you want. I don't know. Did you need any particular certification for your IT work?
I could get more if I wanted to, but I studied under someone.
So here, what the mantra is saying is there are these particular rituals that we do in the society to propitiate the presiding deities to get what we want in this world. You want to learn to make wine, you study enology. Whatever it is, go ahead.
And if we want, more conscious contact, then we do what we're doing right now.
We'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
This first part is about worldly stuff. Worldly stuff. And he's going to end this section saying, yeah, and it's all temporary. So from the gods are given these various systematized means of understanding the world, the Aparavidya, the lower knowledge. Here, metaphorically saying, contained in the Vedas. Next mantra.
Yada lelayate hirchihi samide havyavahane tada jab bhagavantarena hutihi pratipadayet, in parentheses, shraddhayahutam. When the fire is kindled and the flames begin to move, let the sacrificer offer his oblations, in parentheses, with faith, in the space between the two portions of the sacred fire where the ghee should be poured.
So here the references to the various rubrics, the Brahmanas, in the Vedas. The Vedas have a mantra portion, the various hymns, we could even say spells that we're to do. And the Brahmana portion are the rubrics or the instructions of how to do it. So again, this is describing how to do Vedic ritual, but the deeper meaning is learn to do the propitiating action, acquire the propitiating knowledge correctly. So, if, for example, you use Kirsten, you do not study, you do not get the information necessary for your current certification. You're not putting the ghee, the oblation, in between the two flames in the right way. What happens?
You don't get it?
You don't get it. So he's saying the ritual won't work. It won't work as well. If you get behind in your learning new medical language in Spanish and English, you're not going to be able to do the ritual right, meaning appropriately being able to serve your clients. So don't take this literalistically. These are all symbolic understandings. Now, if you happen to be a Brahmin priest, this is useful for how to exactly do your various rituals. But I don't think that applies to us today. Next one.
Yasyagnihodram adarshama paurnamasam achaturmasyamana grayanam atiti varchitam cha ahutama vaishvadeva mabidina hutamasa patmam stasya lokan hinasti. If a man's Agnihotra sacrifice is not accompanied by 1, the new moon and full moon sacrifices, 2. By the 4 months of the autumnal season sacrifices. 3. By the sacrifice of offering first fruits at harvest time, or if it's unattended by guests, or is without offering, or performed without the worship of Vaishwadevas, or not performed strictly according to the rules laid down in the Vedas, then such karma destroys all his worlds till the 7th.
So again, we want to take this metaphorically. Oh my God, you got to do it exactly perfectly at the right time, in the right way, with the right astrological, the time of the month, etc., like that, with the moon where it's supposed to be. It won't work. So, for example, during COVID, if you had studied bubonic plague, would you have been useful?
No. Well,
You might have been fine if somebody had come in with bubonic plague, but not too good with someone coming in with COVID. You have to do it right. Or you may learn a new programming language, but if it's not one your company uses, not do any good. So the deeper meaning of this is we have to learn to do the propitiating activity correctly, or it's all for naught. And again, the deeper import of this is it's a lot of work to be successful in this world. We all work pretty hard. Just talking with a student, she's in management. And one of the things that I'm seeing now is since 2008 and the crash there, especially if you're in IT, the expectation of a 40-hour work week is just gone. Do you work more than 40 hours, Kristen?
No.
You're unusual. So many, it's when you get into management stuff, they expect you to put in 60 hours a week. That's just what you do for the same money. So they change the rules. You don't do it right, get promoted, you don't get your bonus. You only get meets expectations on your review. You don't get exceeds expectations. Again, this is metaphor, mystic symbolism. And again, it's for the purpose of seeing the shortcomings of our worldly endeavors. All right, next one.
So I have a question.
Yes, sir.
We are planning a wedding, and part of that is my family wants to do like a South Indian ritual. And for that, they have to compare our signs or horoscopes, and the pujari will give us like a specific date and the time, and if it's not done at this time, all this and that. So like, is that to be taken literally? Like if we don't follow exactly what he says?
Depends on if you believe it. Belief is very strong. We haven't talked about it much in this class, but we've talked in other classes about the power of sankalpa. The Master Jesus said, whatsoever you ask believing, so shall you receive. So if there's belief in the import of this, if you believe that if you get married at such and such a time astrologically, you'll have a good marriage, knock yourself out. Now, one of the things we have to understand, things like weddings, funerals, rites of passage, like receiving Gayatri Mantra or Kinsiera. These are public rituals. They're not just for you and Kirsten. You can do that. You go to City Hall, have a civil wedding. But if you want to involve your families, what does it hurt to respect their feelings? Now, if there's a doubt in your mind, maybe a little bit of belief, oh my God, if we don't do it on this day, we're going to have a terrible marriage. Maybe they're right. You'd be surprised how these deeply rooted cultural beliefs hang on.
Well, even in here, it's like, then such karma destroys all his worlds till the seventh. And then you read, it's like the seven worlds can be described as 7 generations. If you don't do the karma right, then it's like, have
But-
consequences upon oneself and then down to your.
But the point is, the underlying purpose of what the Rishi is saying is trying to gain happiness in this world by following the rules is really hard, and most of us fail.
Or if you succeed, it's temporary.
Yes. Yes. Am I making sense, Kirsten?
Mhm.
You know, oh, if I mess up, it's going to be 7 generations of fighting. You might just have 7 weeks of it without, even if you do it right. So all we can do is our best. But in terms of you, practically speaking, does it hurt to do the ritual in a way that gives peace of mind to your relatives? If it doesn't matter to you what day you get married, in the West, we don't have those ideas. In a Catholic West wedding, nobody worries about the astrology. God forbid the girl goes to her wedding bed and she's not a virgin. What's the saying in the Catholic Church? The first baby can come anytime, all the rest take 9 months. Oh, she was only pregnant for 3 months. She had a baby. But she went to her marriage bed a virgin. Yeah. These are all just silly ideas. Silly ideas. But if the people around you believe in them, when I was at St. Augustine, and I was, a professional musician, one of the major parts of my job was helping grieving families plan funerals. And one of the things that I would emphasize to the family is funerals are not for dead people. Funerals are for the living. It doesn't matter what grandmother wanted. Funerals are not for the dead, they're for the living. The dead people don't care. They're out of here. So if you want I Am the Bread of Life, you have that song if you like it. It's for the living. Oh, should grandma be cremated or buried? This is what. Rules are for the living, not for the dead. And any public ritual, like a wedding, is not just for the two of you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be inviting your families. Are you inviting your family? Yeah. Are you inviting yours? Are there specific cultural rituals that are important to your family?
Not equivalently, but there's some things I think that we're used to that we'll probably want to have.
You can wear a red dress.
For the Indian part, yeah.
You're not going to wear a white dress.
I'll wear a white dress.
We're gonna do both.
Why do you wear a white dress?
I guess that's our culture.
Because Queen Victoria did. It's the only reason.
Oh, okay.
And everybody, oh, it's so great, a white dress. And from that point on, brides have worn white dresses. But white is the color of mourning in India. What?
Yeah, it's what the widow wears.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, wow.
Doesn't matter because you've got a bicultural wedding happening. Don't worry about it. Do your best.
Yeah.
Do your best. But this is a good example. Probably there is nothing you can do that's going to please everybody on both sides of these two families. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Just do your best. And for you, understand that any notion, oh, this is going to wreck your marriage, you're going to, fight for 20 lifetimes, Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very good example of what the Rishi's pointing out. Yes, if you want this, you've got to obey the ritual and do it just right, but chances are you're going to screw up. People get all neurotic about doing it right. Let me share something with you. Perfectionism is a klesha. It's an affliction. It's a character defect. Many of us torture ourselves with regret. I didn't do it perfectly. Or we never end up doing the things we want because we are afraid I can't do that right. Back when I was teaching music, I can't tell you how many singers. Some kid would come in and she'd have a big voice. Big voices are unwieldy. They don't move easily. Even singing in tune is difficult. It takes a lot of work to learn how to master and control a big voice. So a kid would come in, this is too hard, I'm not going to do it. Because of perfectionism. Anything worth doing is worth doing badly, I like to say. Because if it's really hard, if it's really important, you're not going to do it well right off the bat. So we have to not be afraid of screwing up the ritual, in spite of what the Rishi says. Any thoughts on this? All right. Next month.
Kali Karali cha Manojavacha Slohitaya cha Sudumravarna Sphulingini Vishwaruchi cha Devi Lelayamana iti sapta jivaha. The 7 flickering tongues of flames are Kali, the black one, Karali, the terrific one, Manojava, the swift as mind one, Sulohita, the deep red one, Sudumravarna, the smoke-colored, Sphulingini, the sparkling, and Vishvaruchi, the bright, all-shining, variegated one.
And so here they're describing the various colors of the flames in the traditional Agnihotra, and the Pujari, the priest, the Brahmin priest, needs to be able to discern the distinctions of all this. Again, I'm not going to go into the various efforts because I don't think anybody, either online or here, is going to be doing Agnihotra with that kind of attention. But it's just, again, showing us how difficult it is to do things in this world, trying to get perfect results. Going on. Next mantra.
Eteshu yascharate brajamaneshu yathakalam chahutayo yadadayan tam nayantyetah suryasya rashmayo yatra devanam patireko divasah. He who offers oblations in proper time into these shining flames, him the oblations as sun's rays lead to the place where the one Lord of the gods, Indra, resides.
So the mystic symbolism here is, if we are in fact able to properly propitiate the presiding principle governing our field of endeavor, then we get rewarded. So, Mark Herman, do you remember when you were taking all your various boards to become a doctor?
Yeah, I do.
And it was a lot of really hard work and study, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Seemed almost impossible.
Well,
But you
hopefully
did.
not.
But I bet there were a lot of people who tried and didn't pass.
Yeah, there were.
Or the California bar exam. Any of you know any lawyers? The California bar is exceptionally arduous. And you have to learn things you will never learn and use in the courtroom. It's just amazingly weird. So these again are our modern rituals that we have to do just perfectly in order to get what we want. That's why we pay doctors so damn much, because they work so hard. All right, next.
Jim, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Yeah, this is Amini. So my question is, when you are doing the argument that I've heard with ritual and with chanting is, yes, on the one hand, you're propitiating a god for a result, right? That's the external meaning. But I've also heard that all of these things exist in a way to focus the mind, like the intricacy of it, the rules, like all of that, in a way is a way of focusing the attention. Because even if you look at the way the Veda is structured, right? The chanting comes and then the Upanishad comes. So it's almost a way to like thin the mind or focus it or make it more one-pointed. I guess I'm curious, like, is that, if you look at it through that lens, it is still temporary, but it is kind of a way towards a bigger end.
And what you said is entirely true about the world. So let's use something very pragmatic out of your experience, not a Brahminical ritual, but let's look at your study of music.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who will study singing for the purpose of winning the contests and
Yes.
getting the various awards and things
Yes.
like that. You and I have had this conversation,
Yes.
but the study of Indian music and singing is a yoga in itself
Yes.
for those who wish to see it as such.
Yes.
I
think,
suspect you knew a lot of young neurotic kids who were just tied in knots trying to sing perfectly to win the prize.
yeah, I was one of them. I think it's a really good metaphor actually, because
I'm trying
yeah.
to be polite.
Yeah, no, that was also me. But I
But
do think,
but
yeah,
if you really want to be a great singer,
yeah,
you need to learn how to get into the zone.
yeah.
Is that making sense?
Yes, and I think it's a good metaphor because I for some reason a lot of the times in both cases the surface meaning is followed a lot more or is publicized a lot more than kind of the underlying thing. Yeah.
And that doesn't mean not to study the technique.
Yes, it's just the way you do it. Yeah.
And it's what you, and you know, you, all of our technical observation and stuff like that is done in the practice room.
Mhm.
When you go out to communicate something or even just to sing to the Lord,
Mhm.
it all has to be second nature, all kinesthetic memory in your body itself.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So let me, I mean, and it could be just simple things. So, for example, Santosh, when you're programming, do you type?
Mhm.
Do you do the hunt and peck method, or are you just kind of unconsciously able to type?
Just unconsciously type.
Yeah. But at one point, you had to learn to type.
Mhm.
FDSHAKL semicolon. See, but then you internalize it, it just becomes part of what you do. You see. So your point is completely valid. But I tell you, if some shopkeeper opens a business, installs a Lakshmi Murti, and hires a pujari to do the ritual, their concern is the fellow better do it right so I can make money. They're not doing it so they can more deeply love God. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah. Very good point. Okay, one more.
एह्यहीति तमाहुतायः सूर्वचः सुवर्चसः सूर्यस्य रश्मिभिर्यजमानं वहन्ति प्रियां वाचमभिवदन्तायोर्चयन्त्य एष वः पुण्यः सुकृतो ब्रह्मलोकाः. Come hither, says these brilliant oblations unto him, and carry the sacrificer through the rays of the sun, addressing to him the pleasant words of praise. This is the holy world of Brahma, gained by the good works.
So he sums up the whole thing, the desired deity, be it the IT God, the translator God, the Salesforce God, music God, medicine God, law God, whatever it is, says, come hither, come, propitiate me, and I'll give you happiness. I'll give you success. I'll give you money. This is what is meant by the world of Brahma, the creator God, not Brahman, ultimate reality. So the summing up this whole section here is we propitiate the presiding principles over our various fields of endeavor, worshiping those deities, loving them, so we can get the goodies. And it can be much less noble than what we've talked about. You can worship the sex god, and you can be a total roue in your life. It's a word you don't hear too frequently. Come hither, come hither, come hither. Get totally obsessed with it. I was talking with a student this past week who went to the card room because he likes to gamble and play poker. Angry and frustrated because he didn't win. But the poker room keeps saying, come hither, come hither, come hither. Playing the stock market. I'm a day trader. Come hither, come hither. Or it can be something like so many kids are getting addicted to social media. The YouTube God. Come hither, come hither, come hither. It calls to us because it makes me happy or gets me high or I get the endorphin rush. But in the end, even if we're able to do it perfectly, being able to see the distinction between the 7 flames there to put the oblation, which means I'm really skilled in what I do. The results have all sorts of external conditionings. I have another friend, really, really good scientist. He's in biotech, doing really good work. Unfortunately, though, the tech company's going bust. Out of his control. He's going to lose his job. All of us face these things. Are you having layoffs at your company? Because I know tech, there's a lot of that going on.
I'm not. She is.
You are Salesforce?
It's a consulting company that works with
Yeah.
Salesforce.
But it's not anything you've done.
Yeah.
So the fruits of the action oftentimes are completely beyond our personal frame of reference. Temporary. In spite of my hard work, aptitude, the floor falls out. And what I want changes. Thinking of a student that I had studied to be an architect, did it for a couple decades. And I don't want to do this anymore. Went back to school to become a psychotherapist. Now he's propitiating another deity. Nothing wrong with this. The Upanishad is not going to say, don't do this. It's giving us metaphorical instructions of how to be successful in life. Just don't expect something unrealistic. And as long as we don't have what we want, we can hold out the ideal. Well, if I had the perfect marriage, then I'd be happy. If I had just the right house, I'd be happy. If I just found the right job, then I'd be happy. It's all an illusion. And even when we get what we want, we may find that it doesn't suit us. We're not up to the task. I like to say life for the bogey, the seeker after worldly happiness. It's 95 cents worth of work for a nickel's worth of pleasure. It's just bad economics in the end. Okay, I hope we've depressed you all well enough. We should get a change of emphasis next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha.